Hello everyone, back tuning into the 10th Winter 2018-19 update from GazOffice.com. So the 9 updates so far, as well as 2 seasonal model roundups. We've got 13 updates to do, so we are coming towards the end of these winter updates now, can you believe? Once this one is out of the way, it's only going to be another 3 winter updates to go, as well as 1 more seasonal model roundup, and then we will get to the 2nd of December, and that is the day we'll be releasing the GazOffice.com Winter 2018-19 forecast. So we really are getting very, very close now to the final sort of finishing stages of the updates. So again, for the 10th time, we're going to have a look at the GazOffice methodology. We'll be showing you the latest in terms of sea surface temperature anomalies. I've got a bit about QBO. We'll have a look at solar activity and Siberian snow cover, and we're also going to start to unveil our October analogues, and that'll be covering both this update and next week's update, as well as we look at October and try to pick out some years that were fairly close to this October, and see what winters were like that followed those. Although this October hasn't done us any favours, really. But I'll talk more about that as we get into the second part of the video. The first part of the video will cover the usual methodology. So I'll get that for you in a second, just to say that coming up later on today, probably around 5 or 6 o'clock this evening, we will have the second Christmas update. So Christmas updates have started at GazOffice. The Christmas countdown has begun, and we'll have that second update for you this evening. It's going to be quite a long video, so you can't watch it all in one go. This video, don't worry, you will be able to come back and watch it at website whenever you want, because later on today it'll be placed on the winter updates and forecast page with a written summary to go with it as well. So you'll be able to come back and watch the video on demand, and also read that written post whenever you want. That'll probably be around 7 or 8 o'clock this evening. I tend to be a bit late getting those up these days, but I will get that up for you before the end of today. Anyway, so get yourself a cup of chair, get yourself a cup of tea, and maybe a couple of biscuits, because it's going to be here for a while. It's going to be quite an epic update. Big thank you to James, our analogues guru, James Acrill, for sending me analogues through again. You're going to see later on in the video, and also the solar tracker, which you will see in the first part of the video. So I know James is going to be watching, and as always, a big thank you to James Acrill for doing that. Just say that Christmas shop is open, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, what you have to do is go through to the Christmas shop page, and then either use the Amazon search widget or click through the Amazon banners. Go and do your Christmas shopping at Amazon. Because you've gone from GazOffice to Amazon, we will get a revenue fee on the things that you are buying, and a big thank you to everybody for doing that. I've got plenty of time to do Christmas shopping via GazWebbies at Amazon, but just a heads up to say that it is open for business for another year. And I think that's pretty much everything I've got to tell you. So without further ado, let's get on with your 10th Winter 2018-19 update. And we're going to begin by having a look at the QBO, the Quasi-biennial oscillation. So the QBO is an index that's reflecting the strength of the zonal westerlies, essentially. When the QBO is in its easterly phase, the zonal westerlies are going to be weakened, and so you can tend to get more away of high pressure in the northern latitudes during an easterly QBO. And for us, that's an indication of an increased possibility of a colder winter. Conversely, when the QBO is in its westerly phase, you'll be strengthening the zonal westerlies. And so westerly QBOs tend to go with milder, more Atlantic-driven winters. There are many winters that deviate from this, and we will be talking about the QBO in a QBO special probably for the 12th update. So in a couple of weeks' time, we'll do a QBO special. I'll hear much more about this, but we have got the latest QBO number in for October. So let's just scroll you down to the year that we're interested in, 2018, this year, just here, of course. So, of course, we started the year in a strong easterly QBO. January, February, March, all coming out at minus 19 point something. That's a strong easterly QBO phase. for the start of the year. I mean, ECQBO continued into the summer. It reached its peak at minus 29.10 in July. That was the strongest ECQBO in July that we've ever seen, I think. And then after that, in August, we saw the first month that had a weakening of that ECQBO from minus 29 down to minus 20.41. September came out at minus 9.91, so again a dramatic weakening from August to September. The very latest number for October, in terms of the QBO, has come out at minus 2.79. So he wasn't sure whether October would be still just about easterly QBO, or whether it would be just into very slight westerly QBO. Actually, we are still in we were still in a weak easterly QBO during October at minus 2.79. But I think we can say with quite good confidence that by the time we get through to November, and this will be November's number just here, that number should be positive. We should go into the westerly phase of the QBO during November, and then we expect it to strengthen a bit as we get through into December. However, there is a time lag on shifting QBO phases. So at the moment, we are still within the easterly QBO. We was for October, obviously. We'll go into a weak westerly QBO number in November, but I suspect, actually atmospherically, November will still be reflective of that easterly QBO, and it will probably still be reflective in the atmosphere of the easterly QBO in December as well. It may not be until January, February, March that we finally see the atmosphere going into a distinct westerly QBO phase. There's always that little bit of a time lag. Let's come up here to 2012, 2013. So the year of 2012 was a strong easterly QBO year throughout the year, although right at the very end of 2012, that easterly QBO did actually start to fade, and that continued into the first months of 2013, weakening QBO signal. So actually, by the time we get through to March 2013, we are very slightly in a westerly QBO at plus 2.85. However, March was an incredibly blocked month, very cold month, of course, across Europe, the UK, and much of North America as well. And even April strengthening up to plus 8.39, so strengthening westerly QBO. Even April was quite reflective, have quite a blocking signal, quite reflective of the easterly QBO still. So it wasn't really till we got through to the summer months that we get these very positive westerly QBO numbers appearing in 2013, and that's when the westerly QBO finally set in. Of course, that westerly QBO carried us through the winter of 2013-2014. So, the basic point I'm getting at is that the early part of the winter, from a QBO perspective, could have more of a blocking signal than you might expect, given that we are transitioning from an easterly to westerly QBO. It may not be until later in the winter that we finally start to see that westerly QBO really bedding in atmospherically. But we will have a lot more about the QBO when we do the 12th update. We'll have analogues for the QBO, and we'll have a lot more information about the quasi-biennial oscillation in the 12th update. Right, let's move on to the oceans next. So this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans were looking when we did last week's 9th update. Three areas of interest. So we've got the Northern Pacific up here, we've got the North Atlantic over here, and then we've got the ENSO region just there. We'll talk about ENSO in a moment. Let's deal with the Northern Pacific and the Atlantic first of all. So we're interested to start off with in this sort of area up here, the Northern Pacific and the Northern Atlantic. That's how the oceans were looking last week. This is the very latest, so very little change in either the North Atlantic or the North Pacific. Let's deal with the North Atlantic first. So we still have this colder than average area of sea surface temperature anomalies to the south of Greenland. It still remains warm, not as warm as it was earlier in the season, but it remains warm through this central part of the North Atlantic Ocean, going over towards the coast of America, and then down in the tropics, sea surface temperature temperature anomalies are not all that far from average. So very little change from last week to this week in terms of those North Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. It still remains quite a bit warmer than average in the Norwegian Sea, but again, not as warm as it was last year. In the North Pacific, so again, it's how things looked in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean last week up here, particularly interested in this warmer area in the eastern part of the North Pacific. Let's have a look at the latest. So that's cooled down a little bit. It is still warmer than average up there in the northeastern Pacific Ocean. Not quite as warm as it was last week. So that looks like it's gradually beginning to cool a little bit, but it is still significantly warmer than average up there. Overall, the North Atlantic, the North Pacific, not changing all that much. Now let's have a look at the ENSO region. So this is the ENSO region just here. We've got Peru just there, and Indonesia is over here. The ENSO region is this part of the Pacific Ocean, of course. Now this has been a real struggle to work out what's going on here, because the modelling has been very consistent in wanting to take us into an El Nino for this winter. In fact, last month's models, the E70F, the CFS-V2 and JAMSTEC, all strengthened that El Nino signature. You have to go back to last week's update and the previous updates to see how the modelling has been strengthening this El Nino signal over the past few weeks. That's how the ENSO region was looking last week. This is the very latest. So I suppose we have had a little bit of extra warming of the sea surface temperature anomalies here through the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. But again, it is a very weak signal. This is not a classic El Nino signature by any means. Yes, it is a bit warmer than average through this equatorial Pacific Ocean, but it is by no means a particularly strong signal for El Nino. And as I say, over the past couple of weeks, there is very little to choose, really. It has strengthened perhaps ever so slightly, but not a lot going on, not sort of strengthening that you would expect to see if it's going into a true El Nino event. And another thing that is sort of taking us away from an El Nino is what's happening with the SOI. So the Southern Oscillation Index, this is from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia, the Southern Oscillation Index is an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean. It's measuring the pressures, the air pressures, atmospheric pressures between Darwin in northern Australia and Tahiti in the South Pacific. So when the SOI is in its negative phase, you will typically be in an El Nino, atmospheric El Nino state. So to get a true El Nino event, you need both the atmosphere and the oceans to couple up. So you want to see strong negativity of the SOI to tell you that the atmosphere is reflective of a El Nino state. And when that happens, it can couple up with the ocean, atmosphere can couple up with the ocean, and you'll start to drive up a true El Nino. Well, what's happened in the past few weeks is that we've actually gone from quite negative with the SOI in the early part of October to fairly positive, actually. So this red line here is telling us how the SOI has changed, preliminary SOI numbers, but they don't tend to be corrected all that much from the preliminaries, actually. So this is showing how the SOI has changed over the past month. So we start here on the 5th of October with the SOI down around -10. Quite negative SOI, but look how the red line has been trending up and up and up through October and into November. We actually go into quite strong positive SOI conditions, up to around +4 to +5. I mean, it's not really positive, but it certainly isn't the kind of SOI number that you would expect to see if we was going into a true El Nino event. When the SOI is in its positive phase, the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean is going to be reflective of a La Nina, of a cold event. So the atmosphere is kind of like fighting against what the ocean wants to do. The ocean wants to produce an El Nino. We know that quite definitively. There's a lot of warm subsurface temperature anomalies underneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. So the atmosphere wants to go into an El Nino, but the oceans want to go into an El Nino, but the atmosphere through October anyway has been fighting against that quite a lot by going into this more La Nina type phase. So if I run you down to the preliminary numbers, we go back to the early part of October when we was getting negativity of the SOI. So for example, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th of October coming out at -4, -7, -6. So those are true sort of negative SOI numbers that tells us that the atmospheric state was reflecting a weak sort of El Nino type setup. But look what happens then as we go further up towards the 13th and the 14th of October. We find the SOI going really strongly positive. So 14th October, for example, plus 27.20, 13th plus 24.11, 15th plus 21.40. Those are very strongly reflective of a cold event, of a La Nina type setup in the atmosphere in the Pacific Ocean, totally going against what you expect to see if we was going into a true El Nino event. Now we go a little bit negative again. Around the 20th and the 21st of October, we go down to -4 and -6 with the SOI. So again, more reflective of an El Nino type setup at that point. But then we go a little bit positive again. 23rd, for example, goes to plus 3.54. We scroll further up, get quite a negative number on the 26th of October, -10.90. And the 27th is -7.29. But then we go positive again. 28th of October is at +5. 29th is at +12. 30th is at +15. And so on up we go until we get to the very latest number. 3rd of November is quite negative at -9.17. But this is not the kind of thing you would be expecting to see if we was going into a proper El Nino event. If we was going into a proper El Nino event, you would get consistent negativity of the SY. You would see that kind of number, -9.17, you would see it repeated. You will get many days that actually go under -20 by this point in the year, because remember, we should be peaking an El Nino, both for El Nino and La Nina, peak around Christmas. So we should be getting close towards the sort of peak of this event very shortly, which means you will be expecting to get extreme negative numbers, -20, -30 type days, and consistently you will be under -9. Consistently day after day after day. So something is going on here. The atmosphere does not want to go into a consistent El Nino type setup, and yet we know that the modelling is very keen on this El Nino, so something's going to have to give. These are the monthly SOI numbers from the Bureau of Meteorology. You can go right way back to 1876, can you believe, with the SOI. I won't do that for this update, don't worry. But what we can see is that for 2018, that's the year we're interested in. So it's been quite interesting. We start obviously with the La Nina at the beginning of the year at plus, the SY reflects that, it's positive, plus 8.9. Then February, though, goes really quite negative, -6.0. March swings back positive again. April is also positive. Remember, positive numbers, the atmosphere is in a La Nina type state. May is close to sort of ENSO neutral, and then June goes down to -5.5. And at this point, we was thinking, okay, we're off and running into probably quite a strong El Nino event, but July swings positive again at -1.6. Then we get August and September coming along at -6.9 and -10.0, and at that point it did look as though, and this is when the modelling really started going to town with this El Nino, because it did look as though yes, we will probably go into maybe even a moderate El Nino event. But look how October comes out. Its finalised number for October is +3.0, so that really has put the brakes. I think that really has put the brakes on El Nino, because we have our 2 months of August and September, which are seemingly going into an El Nino event. But October says no. October swings back to a La Nina type setup, or a very weak La Nina type setup in the atmosphere. So clearly the atmosphere and the oceans are sort of fighting against one another. This is what's happening at depth in the Pacific Ocean. These are the subsurface temperature anomalies from the CPC, NCEP and NOAA PDF. This gets updated every week in terms of ENSO evolution. You can find a link to this on the links page. It's always worth a look. You will need an Adobe to be able to open the file because it's PDF, but always worth a look. So we've got the depths of the ocean on the side. So you think this is kind of like the surface of the equatorial Pacific just there. Depths going down to around 300 meters just here. And these colours are these temperature anomalies underneath the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. You see this large mass of red and orange here at depth between around, let's say between around 50 and 200 meters. We have got a big mass of warmer than average subsurface temperature anomalies going up at its strongest around 6 degrees above average. So clearly the ocean looks ready and primed to go into an El Nino event, but the atmosphere is just not letting it happen, or it's only letting it happen very, very weakly and very, very slightly until we see the atmosphere coupling up with the ocean. We will know that the atmosphere is coupled up with the ocean because the SOI will plunge and it will stay in very negative territory. Until that happens, there has to still be a big question mark about this El Nino event, I think. So it remains a mystery. This is going to keep us guessing, I think, right the way into the winter, exactly what is going to happen with this El Nino event. Will we ever have an El Nino event, or will it just stay on the sort of warm side of ENSO neutral? It's going to keep us guessing to the very end. Right, 2018 Atlantic hurricane season next. This is the very latest in terms of the 2018 hurricane season from Wikipedia. I'll scroll you down to the numbers. Drawing to a close now with the hurricane season, of course. We've still got November to go, but I think we are beginning to wind this hurricane season down quite a lot. So these are the latest numbers. Total depressions 16, total storms 15. That's unchanged from last week. Hurricanes 8, that's up 1 from last week thanks to Hurricane Oscar, and major category 3 or above hurricanes at 2. So, as I explained in the videos over the past few weeks, it's been a really strange season because for depressions and storms, we've actually got quite a high number. We have had quite a lot of tropical storms taking place. The hurricanes are probably about average by now, I would have thought. 8 is not particularly a particularly large number for hurricanes, but we have had a lot of years that have fewer hurricanes than that. Very low, though, on major hurricanes, category 3 or above. So really strange season with sort of average hurricanes, below average major hurricanes, and above average sort of tropical storms and tropical depressions. So what we make of that, I'm not sure. Remember, the idea behind this is that a hurricane is transporting heat from the tropics up to the pole. And you actually can see the track of each individual storm and hurricane on this graph here. It's quite an interesting graph. So you can see how this works, that we've got all the warmth of the tropics down here where these storms are forming, although this season, interestingly, the storms have tended to be forming a little bit further north. I'm not sure what accounts to that. Normally they would be further south, the breeding ground for these storms. But anyway, the idea is that these storms are forming in the tropics where it's very warm, and basically the storms are transporting that warmth via the areas of low pressure that are these tropical storms. They're transporting them north, sending them up there, or sending them up there, or sending them up to there, or possibly sending them up to there. You get the idea of what this is doing. So it's transporting heat from the tropics into mid-latitudes. Eventually that heat is dumped into the pole. When you get lots of heat being dumped into the pole, then it can, via these storms and hurricanes, it can translate back later on in the winter to an increased risk of blocking. Now, we have had quite a lot of storms transporting that heat, so I'm not sure really what this means for the winter forecast, to be honest. I suspect we will have to look at the more active end of the hurricane season. So that probably does favour more blocking through the winter, but we have to keep in mind that it's storms that have been active, not particularly hurricanes. Solar activity next. So this is the solar disk on Outside of This Today from solarham.net. We have again a completely spotless solar disk. We are now into our 16th spotless day of this particular run. There hasn't been any sunspots for 16 days and counting. So obviously solar activity is at very low levels, and Solarham is forecasting that solar activity will remain at very low levels for the next 3 days at least. This is the Gazov's 10th winter update solar activity tracker, updated up to the 3rd of November. Today, when I'm recording the video by our good friend James Acril. So, again, the orange line is depicting each individual day's sunspot numbers, and you can see, going back to the end of last year, this takes us back to the early part of December 2017, around when we released the winter forecast, of course, for last year. You can see that many days last year were posting sunspots. So we did have a few days that were posting sunspots, but at the end of last year, the days that had sunspots were outnumbering those days that didn't have sunspots quite considerably. I mean, we have weak levels of solar activity because the trend lines indicated by the thick green and the thick red lines, they are very low down on the tracker. So obviously what sunspots we were getting were quite minimal, but there was a fair few of them. March into April saw quite a dramatic weakening of sunspot numbers, but then as we went through into the end of the spring and the early summer, again we had quite a few sunspots appearing. Things changed from around the early part of July. We get this long run just here without any sunspot. I think it went on for around a month, and that caused the trend lines to really collapse. The thick green and thick red lines moving down to that very, very low level. I think that was the point through the summer of 2018. That was the point that we entered into solar minimum. Now, since then, we see that we have been posting some days with sunspots again, so the trend lines move up a little bit, and then they trend down, then they move up a little bit again. But now you'll see the trend lines are very much moving downwards once again. This is our very, very latest run just here of spotless days. I say 16 days and counting. Excuse me, just here. And that is enough to move the thick green and the thick red lines downwards, trending down with solar activity as this run of without any sunspots continues. We're in solar minimum. I think we went into the solar minimum of this solar cycle in the summer. We're going to remain in solar minimum through this winter, definitely. We will probably still be in solar minimum next summer, 2019. That may be around when we shift into the new solar cycle, sometime in the middle or latter stages of 2019 is when I'd anticipate we'll begin solar cycle 25. But definitely the winter of 2018-19 is going to be a solar minimum winter. We can say that very, very definitively. And a big thank you to James Acril for updating the solar tracker. We'll be looking at that again next week. This is what's happening in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the North Pole. So the grey line here, this is from a JMA, by the way. The grey line here is the trend line for this time of year. We are cooling things down in the stratosphere over the North Pole at the moment. The black line shows we should be cooling things down. See that by the grey line. The black line is where the temperature at 10 HPA over North Pole has been through the course of this season. So we begin begin at the beginning of September, just here with the grey line and the black line sort of aligned, so very close to average. We can see that now the temperature at 10 HPA is quite a lot colder than average. We do have a cold stratosphere at 10 HPA at the moment, and if we go a little bit lower down to 30 HPA, it's the same story. We can see that the black line has moved downwards. We're colder than average. We're underneath the trend line, the grey line. So it's cold up there in the stratosphere over North Pole at the moment, and that would typically be associated with a strengthening of the polar vortex. And you would also expect the zonal westerlies to be strengthened as well when it's cold in the stratosphere over the North Pole. And indeed, we have seen a strengthening of the zonal westerlies over the past week or two. This is from weatheriscool.com, new feature that I've included in this year's updates. There are several coloured lines here. I haven't got time to go through all of them. What you need to know is that this blue line is how the zonal winds have been performing through this season. So again, you see the zonal winds very much on trend, going back through August into September, just here, very much on trend with the zonal winds. Actually a little bit weaker with the zonal winds as well into the start of October. But through October, those zonal winds indicated by that blue line have been strengthening. So right now, the zonal winds are really quite strong, actually. They are pretty strong zonal winds, associated, of course, with the cold temperatures that we've got in the stratosphere at both 10 and 30 HPA. This is looking at the zonal winds at 10 HPA. The green line, following on from that blue line just here, is the GFS and its ensembles. And you can see what's going to happen as we go further into November is that we are forecasting a weakening, quite a dramatic weakening, of the zonal winds as we go through the first half of November. So as the zonal winds weaken, you would expect the temperature in the stratosphere to begin to lift up a little bit. So this cold stratospheric temperature that we have, both 10 and 30 HPA, shouldn't get much colder than that, I wouldn't have thought. We should start to see the temperatures at 10 and 30 HPA begin to go back closer to average as those zonal winds begin to weaken. So by the time you get through to the middle of November, this is November just here, of course, this is December, this is January, and now we can actually get to the end of February on this chart. So by the time we get through to the middle of November, we should see weakened zonal winds. The rest of the coloured lines are the four individual CFS runs. The CFS is a long-range forecast model that's run 4 times a day, midnight, 6 o'clock in the morning, midday, and 6 o'clock in the evening. And you can see that as we're going through the rest of November and into December, the CFS is forecasting quite a dramatic drop, or many of the CFS members anyway, forecasting really quite a dramatic drop in the strength of the zonal winds. And it looks like most of them are doing it through sort of December. Actually, most of them are doing it through this period just here. This one, or these two just there, do it in the very early part of January. But it looks as though from this point onwards, we can probably expect, if the forecast is right, of course, and remember this is a forecast, so it is subject to error. If the forecast is right, though, from this point onwards, we probably don't see the zonal winds strengthening to as strong as they are right now again until possibly the end of the winter. Not really until we get through to like February, late February, that we start to see those zonal winds really starting to strengthen again. So remember, that's just a forecast, so it is subject to unreliability, same as any other forecast is. But if this is right, big if, from this point onwards, we should not see the zonal winds in the stratosphere over the North Pole as strong as they are right now. Certainly not before the end of the year, possibly not until February. It really does look as though most of these CFS members want to weaken the zonal winds quite dramatically through December in particular, but starting actually in November. And these ones that are bottoming out very low down just here, those are probably CFS members that are picking up on a sudden stratospheric warming either in December or in early January. It'll be very interesting to keep an eye on that, but definitely the CFS wants to weaken those zonal winds considerably through the rest of November and into December as well. Right, last thing we're going to look at, and then we'll pause the video and have a little drink of water, is Siberian, Russian and Scandinavian snow cover. So this is how things were looking across both Russia, Siberia and Scandinavia last week when we did last week's 9th update. We had quite a big increase of snow actually across particularly Scandinavia, but also northern parts of Russia. Quite a big increase of snow at this point last week. We looked at a model, GFS model via meteoshield.fr, and it did look as though we may be doing something similar to what happened in 2012 in the final days of October. So I'll just show you what happened in the final days of October 2012. That's how things looked on the 26th of October 2012. The 27th of October 2012 saw a real surge of snow cover. Look at it, really surged from Russia, even into central parts of Europe. Big increase into Scandinavia as well, and that just continued up to the 28th of October 2012. There was a suggestion we might do something a little bit like that through the final days of October 2018 when we looked at that model last week. So I want to bring you up to date with how snow cover has performed over the past week. So let's run through. This is Saturday 27th. This is Sunday 28th. This is Monday 29th. A big increase in snow cover did take place across many western parts of Russia in the final days of October 2018, and also quite a big increase across Scandinavia as well. We go into the 30th of October to the 31st. Again, big increase in snow cover through into western parts of Russia. Quite an increase across Scandinavia as well. Not quite to the same degree as we saw in the closing days of 2012, but fairly similar. I think this snow cover season across Russia and Siberia and Scandinavia has been quite similar to what we saw in 2012. This brings us up to the very latest in terms of Russian and Siberian Scandinavian snow cover. Up to Friday the 2nd of November, we see again quite a bit of snow even to the west of Russia now, losing a little bit of snow cover across Scandinavia, but still a fair amount of it across particularly central and northern parts of Scandinavia. So I think what's happened over the past week has not been to the same degree in terms of a dramatic increase of snow cover that we saw in the final days of October 2012, but it is quite similar. This season has performed quite similar to the Russian and Siberian snow cover season of 2012. Just going back through the archive so you can see how we currently compare to the past year. So again, this is where we are for the 2nd of November 2018 with snow cover across Russia and also Scandinavia. This is how things looked in 2017. So quite similar actually to this point in 2017. Maybe a little bit less across Scandinavia, but overall I think fairly similar to 2017 at this point. Let's go to 2016. We are behind 2016 for snow cover across Russia, but we have more across Scandinavia. 2015, we have more snow cover across Scandinavia this year than at this point in 2015. Probably a little bit less across Russia. 2014, we are above 2014 both for Scandinavian and Western Russian snow cover at this point. 2013, we're above 2013, definitely for Russian snow cover, probably the Scandinavian snow cover too. 2012, that's a year we're quite similar to. So again, let's just compare the two. Yes, there is definitely a similarity, certainly for Russian snow cover. Probably a little bit less for Scandinavian snow cover, I have to say. But I think overall, this season has performed quite similar to the snow cover season of 2012. 2011, we are above 2011, the Russian and Scandinavian snow cover. 2010, we're above 2010 for Russian snow cover and probably on a par with Scandinavia. 2009, quite similar actually, I think, for 2009 to this year. Maybe a little bit less this year, but I think, again, fairly similar to 2009. Those are two very interesting years, 2012, 2009. I'm sure a lot of you will notice that. That's 2008. We are way ahead of 2008 now for Russian snow cover. Probably quite close for Scandinavia. 2007, we are way ahead of 2007 for both Russian and Scandinavian snow cover. 2006, probably quite close for Russian snow cover, but behind the Scandinavian snow cover. 2005, we are ahead of 2005 for Scandinavian snow cover, and probably quite similar, or maybe a little bit ahead for Russia. 2004 shows that we are probably quite close for Russian snow cover, and for Scandinavian snow cover, I think we're a little bit ahead, actually, this year. 2003, we are probably a bit behind 2003 for Russian snow cover, or quite close to it maybe, and probably on a par for Scandinavian. 2002 looks like that. I think we're ahead for Russian snow cover at this point, and probably quite similar for Scandinavian snow cover. 2001. Remember, this is a judgment call, so some of you will probably disagree with me on this, with these calls, and you'll have to let me know in the comments. 2001, so again, probably quite similar for Russian snow cover, probably a little bit behind the Scandinavian snow cover. Let's go back to 2000, so a little bit ahead of 2000, both for Scandinavian and also for Russian snow cover. 1999, so we are ahead of both Russian and Scandinavian snow cover this point in 1999. And 1998, again, we're ahead, well ahead of Russian snow cover at this point in 1998, and for Scandinavian, probably a little bit ahead there as well. I think the year that we're interested in with this is definitely going to be 2012. It looks very similar what's happened here with this Siberian snow cover season to 2012. Not quite to the same degree, pushing that snow into the central parts of Europe. We haven't done that, but I think the way snow cover increased quite dramatically in the final sort of 3 or 4 days of October, very similar. And that will form part of the winter updates, of course. Right, 40 minutes we've spoken for, and we've still got the analogues to do. So I'm going to pause the video there, get a little drink of water, and then when we come back, I'm going to get through 40 plus analogues in 20 minutes to keep this under an hour. Will I be able to do it? You'll find out when we come back and we look at the first batch of October analogues, and I'll talk you through those very shortly. So see you in around a minute. Alright, we're back and we're ready to go through our next batch of analogues. So I'm just going to check to make sure that we're recording okay. Yes, we are. So we're going to have a look at our October analogues package. The first October analogues package. We'll do some more next week, of course. But the first thing we're going to look at is temperatures, October temperatures. I'm going to do it through the CET, the Central England temperature. So this is how the CET came out for October 2018. It hasn't done us any favours at all, really, this, because it came out at 10.6 CT at 10.6, which is an anomaly of 0.0, a 0.0, so bang on average, really, for 61 to 1990, and very close to average for 81 to 2010 as well. So this makes it very difficult to look at past October CET, so there's going to be a lot of them being an average number. So what we decided to do, to try and narrow it down a little bit, is that we're looking at October CETs of between 10.3 and 10.9, with, of course, the central figure of 10.6 this year's CET being bang in the middle of those two sort of extreme of the range. So 10.3 at the low end, 10.9 at the high end. There's going to be quite a few of these, so let's get through them. We're going to start off with October 1851, which has a central temperature of 10.8. The winter that followed it was 1851, 1852. It has above average heights over Scandinavia, and we bring the wind in from the east. So it looks like that was quite a dry and fairly cold winter. The next October, coming out with a CET of 10.7, is 1856. The winter of 1856, 1857 looks very unsettled, with the below average heights through the country. We've got the above average heights to the east. This looks like an unsettled and not particularly cold winter. There's no true blocking signal there. The next October is 10.3, right at the low end of our range. It's October 1862 with a CET of 10.3. The winter of 1862-1863 looks mild with below average heights to the north, above average heights to the south, and we bring those westerlies through across the country like that. The next October is 1866. It has a CET of 10.7. The winter of 1866-1867 looks mild. It has above average heights to the south, below average heights to the north, and we bring in those mild southwesterly winds. The next October is 1874 with a CET of 10.4. The winter of 1874-1875 is our first cold one, I think. We've got above average heights to the north, below average heights to the southeast, bringing the wind in from an easterly direction. That looks like it's our first cold winter of this analogues package. The next October is 1903 with a CET of 10.5. The winter of 1903-1904 looks very unsettled, below average heights right over top of the country, very wet and unsettled winter for 1903-1904. The next October is 1909 with a CET of 10.4. The winter of 1909-1910 looks really unsettled. Look at that deep trough of below average heights through the country. Very wet winter, very unsettled winter, and not a particularly cold winter either. 1909-1910. The next October is 1910. So we've got 1909, then 1910. This one is bang on the CET that was got for this year at 10.6. For this October. The winter of 1910-1911 looks quite anticyclonic, with an area of high pressure centred close to the UK. A fairly mild and dry winter, 1910-1911. October 1913 comes up next with a CET of 10.9. The winter of 1913-1914 is quite unsettled with below average heights close to the country, and it wasn't cold either. We've got 1914 next. October 1914 has a CET of 10.3. The winter of 1914-1915 places a deep trough of below average heights over top of the country. That's an exceptionally wet winter and a fairly mild winter as well in 1914-1915. Our next cold winter shows up. It follows October 1916 with a CET of 10.6. The winter of 1916-1917 is cold. It's one of the few genuinely cold winters that we have in the first sort of 40 years of the 20th century. It has a blocking signal up to the north, has below average heights to the south. We bring the wind in from an east or northeasterly direction. That's quite a severe winter in the middle of World War I, in the middle of the Great War. The next October is 1920 with a CET of 10.4. The winter of 1920-1921 is generally quite mild and dry with above average heights close to the country in 1920-1921. October 1925 shows up next with a CET of 10.4. The winter of 1925-1926 is unsettled with the below average heights coming in from off the Atlantic. I think it has a cold November, it has a cold start, but it's not a particularly cold winter in its own terms. Then we've got October 1927, so quite a few of these through the 1920s. We've got a CET in October 1927 of 10.5. The winter of 1927-1928 looks like that. Looks like it's probably a relatively mild winter, but it does have a really cold December, and there's a really classic white Christmas, of course, in 1927 with a proper blizzard across much of England. October 1930 comes next at 10.5 with the CET. Winter of 1930-1931 has below average heights over to the east of the country, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. Looks like that's quite a cold winter in 1930-1931. October 1934 shows up next, and this one has a CET bang on this year's at 10.6. Winter of 1934-1935 looks like it has a go at being a cold winter with above average heights to the north and below average heights to the southeast. Of course, it contains an exceptionally mild December, but I think it gets colder as we go into the early months of 1935. October 1937, it has a CET of 10.4. The winter of 1937-1938 looks like, again, it should be quite a cold winter with a fairly strong blocking signal, above average heights to the north, below average heights to the south. I'm sure there was some cold weather during that winter. We've got October 1938 showing up next with a CET of 10.5. A winter of 38-39 looks like this. Unsettled winter, very unsettled. Below average heights through the country, above average heights out to the northeast. Contains another cold Christmas though, so maybe there's a little bit of trend here for cold Christmases, who knows. But this one does contain another white Christmas in 1938, another classic snowy Christmas. October 1941 has a CET of 10.4. The winter of 41-42 is the last of the three severely cold winters of the early 1940s. There's a trilogy of 39-40, 40-41, and the final one is 41-42, with the blocking to the north, the below average heights to the southeast, and we bring those bitterly cold winds in from the east and from the northeast with that winter. October 1942 has a CET of 10.4, and the winter of 42-43 ends that run of cold winters in the early 1940s. This was a milder winter, much milder winter, with above average heights to the south, below average heights to the north, and there's those southwesterly winds coming in across the country. That's a much milder winter there. Another one for the 1940s. This is 1943 with a CET of 10.6. So again, bang on the CET that we've just had for October 2018. The winter of 43-44 is a quiet anticyclonic winter with high pressure centred just to our west. Not much going on during that winter. We have another CET for October, bang on October 2018. This is October 1947, again coming out at 10.6. The winter of 47-48 is a mild winter. We bring low pressure through across the country. Very, very different winter to the one before it, 46-47. I think that winter, 47-48, is shown up quite a bit in our analogues this year. October 1957 shows up next with a CET of 10.8. And the winter of 57-58, this one's shown up quite a bit in the analogues as well, I think, has below average heights to the east of the country, above average heights out to the west, and quite a cold winter. It starts mild. December 1957 is mild, but it gets colder by the end of the winter and the start of the spring. It's freezing cold. Then we're up to October 1958. It has a CET of 10.8. This is the winter of 1958-1959. So below average heights down to the southeast, above average heights up to the northwest. And it's quite a cold January in 1959. A lot of dry weather in that winter as well. October 1960 has a CET of 10.3. The winter of 60-61 has the below average heights out to the west. We bring the Atlantic through like that. It does have quite a strong high pressure signal to the east, but actually this is one of the milder winters of the 1960s. It's a very cold decade in the 1960s with a lot of severely cold winters, but this is one of the milder ones, 60-61, and also quite wet. We've got October 1961 showing up next with a CET of 10.9. The winter of 61-62 has below average heights to the east and above average heights out to the west and the northwest. Quite a coldish winter, especially sort of later on. It gets quite cold, and particularly cold in March of 1962. And then we're through to October 1962. So we've got October 1960, October 1961, and October 1962. Three of them. This one, 1962, has a centering temperature in October of 10.4. And it means that the Great Winter of 62-63 appears in our analogues. And I think this is the first time that's happened this season. So we know this one is the coldest winter since 1740. It's the daddy of cold winters, with severely cold air coming in from the east. You know all about the winter of 62-63. I don't need to tell you about that, but it's the first time it's appeared, I think, in our analogues this season. We're up to October 1967, has a CET of 10.8, and the winter of 67-68 looks like this. Above average heights out to the west and below average heights over to the east. Quite a lot of northerly winds in the winter of 67-68, and it has a fairly cold January too. Then we're up to October 1970, CT 10.7, winter of 70-71. Again, the above average heights to the north, the below average heights to the south. This again has quite a cold Christmas. That's fairly interesting how that is happening with these analogues. So again, it's a white Christmas for many of us in 1970. Then after Christmas into January and February 1971, it actually gets fairly mild. October 1972, again, bang on the CT, but we've just had for October at 10.6. The winter of 73-74 is a fairly quiet and mildish winter, with the wind generally coming up from off the Atlantic. Not much cold weather in that one. October 1976 has a CT of 10.6, again bang on the October CT for 2018. The winter of 1976-1977, and this one's showing up in the analogues a lot as well, has the above average heights to the north, the below average heights to the south, bringing in those easterly winds. That also has quite a cold Christmas, and there was some snow around during Christmas 1976. October 1983 has a CT of 10.5, the winter of 83-84 looks like this, with the below average heights through the country, the above average heights out to west. That's an unsettled Atlantic driven but quite cold winter in 83-84. 1988 has a centering temperature in October of 10.4, the winter of 88-89 is very mild, with high pressure close to the country, low pressure is up to the north, the jet streams going through up there. That's a dry but very mild winter in 88-89. October 1998 was CT at 10.6, bang on this year, and the winter of 98-99 looks like that. Below average heights to the north, above average heights down to the southwest. It's an unsettled and relatively mild Atlantic-driven winter. It does have a few cold snaps, but there weren't many cold winters in the 1990s anyway. October 1999 has a CT of 10.7. The winter of 99-2000 is a very mild winter. Low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. We bring that westerly flow through. It's another one of those very mild 1990s winters. October 2000 with a CET of 10.3 is followed during winter of 2000-2001 by quite a cold winter with below average heights to our south and above average heights to the north. It's very close to being a severely cold winter. Didn't quite go that far, didn't quite come together, but it is a pretty cold winter for 2000-2001. October 2004, the CT of 10.5 is followed by the winter of 2004-5, has above average heights, let's change colour, above average heights out to the west. Overall, I'm going to bring the wind in from the west or from the northwest. That's an interesting winter. It has a fairly mild start, but by the end of it, it does get really very cold late February and into March of 2005. We're drawing towards the end. We go through to October 2007 with a CET of 10.9. The winter of 2007-2008 has above average heights to the south, below average heights up to the north. It's a dry but mild winter. 07-08. October 2010 looks like this with a CT of 10.3, and of course the winter of 10-11 has that strong blocking signal around Greenland, below average heights to the south. It has the December to remember, the coldest December since 1890 in December 2010. And finally, the last year for this analogues package is October 2016 with a CET of 10.9. The winter of 2016-17 was a very dry anticyclonic winter with high pressure pretty much centred over the top of the country. Now, if we put all of that together, this is how the Decembers look. We have to narrow the range down a little bit because there's too many of them actually to do all years combined. So what we've done for December is to look at for the all years combined charts, I should say, including December, is we've narrowed the field down to those winters that follow October's with CTs between 10.5 and 10.7. Again, placing 10.6 in the middle range. So for December, we find it's an unsettled signal, but below average heights close to the country. There is a blocking signal over Scandinavia, interestingly. So some of these a minority of these Decembers could be cold, but overall it's an unsettled and relatively mild signal for the Decembers. For the Januaries, again, very unsettled signal for the Januaries with the below average heights over top of the country. Nothing particularly cold there favoured for the January. Obviously, within those analogues, there would be some cold Januaries. Don't get me wrong. There would be cold Januaries within this sort of package of analogues. But overall, it doesn't favour a cold January because there's no real blocking signal. The same is true really for February. So these analogues are not very good for a cold winter. It just looks unsettled, below average heights to the north, no real blocking signal through December, January or February with these Octobers with CET between 10.5 and 10.7. Having said that, again, I have to re-emphasise there would be cold winters, there would be cold Decembers, there would be cold Januaries, would be cold Februaries within these analogues, but if you combine them all, it is not a particularly cold signal. However, look at March. Following Octobers with CETs between 10.5 and 10.7 does look potentially a lot colder, with the blocking signals suddenly appearing to the north of the UK, the below average heights down to the south. The wind, therefore, is in from the east, and so out of all of the months, it looks like March is favoured to have the greatest chance of cold weather. However, for the winters themselves, these are the all winter. This is the all winters combined chart. When you look at Octobers with CETs of 10.5 to 10.7, put all the winter months and all winters themselves together. This is how it comes out. It's an unsettled and not cold signal with below average heights through the country. So it's unsettled signal because it's winter. There is a weak signal for high pressure to be to the northeast, so we could, in a minority of these winters, get cold conditions, but overall we favour generally not particularly cold winters with these analogues. And that's it, and I've managed to get through all of that within the hour, so I'm really pleased with myself to be able to do that. I thought this was probably going to stretch on for well over an hour, but I've managed to keep it to an hour. I'm going to close the video down there. So I hope you found the 10th Winter 2018-19 update interesting and informative. The analogue's not particularly good for a cold winter, of course, but then this is all going to be put together with all of the other analogues that we've been looking at. So if you want a cold winter, don't be too downhearted about that. We know that last week's analogues, looking at El Nino, for example, were a lot better. So we're going to put all this together when we come to do winter forecast, and we'll just see how things come out. We'll have some more October analogues next week. I'm not sure what we're looking at. Might be October precipitation, might be something else, but there'll definitely be more October analogues next week. Maybe those will be a little bit more conducive to something colder. And then, say the week after that, the 12th winter update could be a QBO special. Right, 1 hour, 1 minute. This video will be placed on the winter updates and forecast page. There'll be a written summary that goes with it as well, just going over everything that we've discussed in the video. That'll be placed around 7 o'clock this evening. Don't forget the second Christmas update. It'll be with you around 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, but at 1 hour and 1 minute. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.